Welcome to the hippest trip in pro wrestling and the premier platform for pay-per-view post-show punditry. This is the Chain Reaction on the Kevin Kelly Podcast League. The time is round about 1 a.m. Eastern. The place, the Kevin Kelly Podcast Network. And the show, well, this is the hippest trip in wrestling podcast. It's the Chain Reaction. This is the program where a panel of pro wrestling pundits are prepared to pontificate on the positives or the problems of the pay-per-view that we just perused. I am your host, the Godfather Nate Milton, a.k.a. Nasty Nate, and joining me in the Chain Gang tonight is a very special guest to kick off this inaugural edition of the Chain Reaction. She is the host of Geek and Sassy, Freak Out Drive-In, Talking Pop, and Talking WCW. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Jennifer Smith. Jennifer, how you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling good and I'm awake, and thank you for having me on this two-person panel with you, Nasty Nate.
I mean, that's the best kind of panels, I think. You know, we can really get to know somebody.
Right, yeah. You don't have to, you deal with everybody else's bullshit. Just have a two-person conversation, and we can rock that shit.
I think sometimes, when you start to add more and more people, like, I'd rather have 2 people here than, say, 30 people, because that would just be unwieldy. Especially if they started coming in at like 30-second intervals, that would just throw off the timing of the show.
Right, just skip all that and get to the best 2 of the group, honestly.
Exactly. Of course, we are here to talk about the 32nd annual Royal Rumble presented by the WWE with the help of Super Golden Crisp. The way this show is going to work, for those of you that are new to the program, which I assume would be everybody, since this is our first edition, we're going to run down the match card, and then we're going to talk about a couple different categories pertaining to the pay-per-view. So we're not going to go match by match. We are going to give you all the results, and then we're going to get into the good stuff, the nitty-gritty, if you will. So this was, like I said, the 32nd annual Royal Rumble taking place from Phoenix, Arizona, and we had a pretty stacked card, a card that was just bursting at the seams, Jennifer. It filled 5 hours and then some if you count the pre-show.
Well, I like it when things go a little long, so it didn't bother me at all. I think for what you've got, I mean, you're just going to have to sit through a long show sometimes.
And this is something I think fans should be conditioned to accept by now.
Yeah.
Like, we're well in the era of 3-hour Raws. We're well in the era of even a B-level pay-per-view taking 4 hours. And so, of course, one of your big 4 is going to be this massive 5-hour behemoth. So, I would suggest for future events such as SummerSlam or WrestleMania, do like I do, because I'm getting up there in age a little bit. I'm not as young and spry as I used to be. I took a nap. I took a nap at about 3 o'clock, woke up about 6 in time to catch a little bit of the pre-show, and I was refreshed and able to last through the whole show.
I did the exact same thing, no lie.
Naps are crucial. Naps are essential. I hated them when I was a kid, but now that I'm a grown-ass man, I enjoy a good nap every now and then.
Same.
All right. So let's start with the pre-show results. We had Bobby Roode and Chad Gable defeat Razor and Scott Dawson in 6 minutes, 55 seconds. The second match of the night was for the United States Championship. Shinsuke Nakamura regained the title by defeating Rusev in 10 minutes and 15 seconds. And the final match on the pre-show, which was actually a pretty good match.
Mm-hmm.
The Fatal 4-Way for the Cruiserweight Championship, which saw Buddy Murphy defeat Akira Tozawa, Hideo Itami, and Kalisto. So out of those 3 matches on the pre-show, Jen, was there anything that really stood out to you that, caught your interest?
I really liked the Cruiserweight match. I'm a unexpected Buddy Murphy fan, so I had him picked to win that, and I'm glad I did. But it was fast paced and sort of frantic, and it felt like honestly it could have been, well, I guess not in this show, but it felt like not a pre-show match, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it was a very good match. Honestly, by the end of the night, and we'll get to this a little bit later when we start to talk about some of our favorite things on the card tonight, it's up there. Like I thought that was a match
Yeah,
that really stood out.
I
Uh,
agree.
so then we made our way to the main card, and this is where my kind of cynical wrestling fan spider senses started tingling
Mm.
because the first match on the card was Asuka versus Becky Lynch for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Asuka retained in 17 minutes and 10 seconds. So Becky Balboa coming in with all this pomp and circumstance wasn't able to win the big one. Oh, how will she ever find her way back into the title picture? Stay tuned.
Yes, it wasn't suspicious at all, but not unwelcome. I will say that.
No. Uh, the next match on the card was the Miz and Shane McMahon, the best tag team in the world, taking on the Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus, for the SmackDown tag titles. Miz and Shane won in 13 minutes and 20 seconds. And, there was a lot of man hugs afterwards between the Miz, Miz's dad, and Shane McMahon.
Yeah, probably the highlight of it, minus Shane's amazing shooting star press at the end, which is just what the shit. Like he's really doing this shit still. I
I
was
mean,
blown away by that.
like people criticize Shane McMahon, and sometimes when you go back and look at the entirety of his catalog as a performer, there's room for criticism because he gets by with a lot of stunts that other performers weren't allowed to do.
Hmm.
But I still give the guy credit, man. Like he's over 50 and you still out here doing this stuff. Like I got to give the man props for that.
Yeah, I can't blame it. I mean, he's not my favorite, no doubt, but I was entertained, and The Miz is always entertaining. So, it was what it was.
Speaking of was what it was, Ronda Rousey defended her Raw Women's Championship against Sasha Banks, and she defeated the boss in 13 minutes and 55 seconds. I'll have plenty of thoughts on that match a little bit later, Jen.
Me
Uh,
too.
but that set the stage for the women's Royal Rumble match, and we had a lot of neat spots here and there. I
Hmm.
thought the beginning of this match dragged a little bit, but by the time we got to the end, it really started picking up the pace, and
Hmm.
we saw Becky Lynch, who substituted for an injured Lana, getting the win by eliminating Charlotte Flair. So Becky Lynch is headed to WrestleMania, something that I think most folks assumed she'd be in one of those high-profile matches at Mania. We just didn't know whether it'd be through the Rumble or through another way.
Right. Um, Yeah, see, I think this is different for me. One, because I'm fairly new to wrestling. I'm like coming up on about a year of like paying attention and watching. So, to me, it's kind of a big deal to like know who all the wrestlers are when they come out.
Mm,
So, I was still really entertained. Even though, like you said, the first part of it was a bit slow, I was still really into what was happening. Even though I can understand the criticism for it being too long.
yeah, that
And
match
then
went an hour and 12 minutes. It was by far the longest match on the show.
I could see that criticism, but then also to get the ending that we got, I mean, you can't really fault that.
Yeah. So we got Becky Lynch going to WrestleMania. Then up next was the match I was most looking forward to going into the night for the SmackDown WWE Championship. Daniel Bryan defeated AJ Styles at 24 minutes and 35 seconds with the help of the returning Eric Rowan, somebody that nobody was clamoring for. Nobody. I mean,
Right.
I'm sure he's a nice guy, decent family man. And, he's a vintner. He makes wine, if we're to believe his WWE produced vignettes. But I can't think of one fan that was out there, Jennifer, that was like, you know what this match needs? Eric Rowan.
I don't even think he thought he should be there. I mean, it's like, well, what are we doing? And honestly, I was disappointed in that match. So, uh, no,
Yeah, I'm,
thank
I'm
you.
sure we'll touch on that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But yes, Eric Rowan and Daniel Bryan now have an alliance, and Daniel Bryan retained his title against AJ Styles. That brought us to the Universal Championship match with Brock Lesnar, your reigning, defending, undisputed champion, taking on Finn Balor. Brock Lesnar wins by submission in 8 minutes and 40 seconds. The shortest match on the card, I believe. Yeah, shortest match on the main card. Uh, Real quick, what did you think of that match?
I liked it a lot more than I expected to, even though, I don't think it was any surprise that Brock was going to win. But I thought Finn looked amazing.
Hmm. Yeah, I like Finn. I like Finn. I think sometimes it feels like they don't know what to do with Finn.
Mm-hmm.
But he's always good whenever they give him an opportunity to shine. Then finally, in our main event, it was the men's Royal Rumble featuring Nia Jax. And, and Seth Rollins, the Kingslayer, he burned it down,
Yep.
eliminating Braun Strowman at 57 minutes and 20 seconds to punch his ticket to WrestleMania. So that is our winner of the men's Royal Rumble, Seth Rollins, and Becky Lynch, the winner of the women's Rumble.
I really am curious to get your thoughts on that Nia Jax nonsense.
hey, let's
No, I like it.
tread lightly when we're talking about the prestigious Miss Nia Jax. So those are the results. Now let's get into some of our categories tonight. First up, Jennifer, is what was the best match of the night in your opinion?
Okay, so this one hurt my feelings a little bit because it. I'm an outlier and I understand, but I'm not a huge Ronda Rousey fan. So I was just like, this is just gonna be like Ronda's gonna win, and I'm gonna be like, bleh. But fucking Sasha looked amazing, and she made Ronda look better. She she had for me, Sasha had the all of the emotion of the match, and the way that she lost was works for what you have with Ronda. And then what she did at the end
Mm.
of the match was just all attitude, and I loved it. Like I was a little bit shocked at my reaction to this match because I did not expect to love it, but I did. I thought it was the best one of the night.
Wow, I like this first show here on the Chain Reaction, and we're already going to have some dissenting opinions because
Right.
I have a different opinion of that match. I'll save it for our next category.
All
But
right.
I thought it was a fine match, but again, I'll get into my thoughts a little bit later.
All right.
My favorite match, and I didn't think that this would be the case going into it, because I was really hyped about that AJ Styles Daniel Bryan match, which ended
Mhm.
up being a good match, but it felt like it could have kicked up one more gear that we never really got to,
Mhm.
and I think they're saving that for a match down the line. Uh, so my favorite match was the men's Royal Rumble.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought it's not as good as last year's. I don't think not trying to be a prisoner of the moment, but I
Mhm.
think it's close. And I really liked some of the small things. We got our annual Kofi Kingston spot, and
Yes.
one of these days they got to let this dude win a battle royal something, man. Like,
And they
I'm
do.
not saying
He's
they
awesome.
need to let him win the Royal Rumble, but he's got to win either something in Saudi Arabia or some WrestleMania battle royal, just as a gold watch for all his years of service. Like, cut Kofi a break.
You know who I loved? Pete Dunne. I'm a
Yes.
huge Pete Dunne mark, so I wasn't expecting him for whatever reason, and I was like, oh shit. Yeah, I thought he did excellent, and Alistair Black, add him to the mix too,
Yep.
because you know NXT is my jam. So
They did a really good job, showcasing the NXT guys. I thought there was a nice spot at the very beginning with Elias and Jeff Jarrett uh, that just brought a smile to my face because he was the one guy that you thought you'd never really see in a WWE ring again, considering how things broke apart. But now relationships have thawed, and he's in the Hall of Fame, and
Mhm.
he's back, and I like good old Jeff Jarrett. Uh, the other things I liked was how they kind of showcased different guys at different times, and they
Mhm.
kept people strong even though they had to lose. Like Drew
Mhm.
McIntyre looked like
Mm.
$1 million in this match.
Yep. He was my
Braun
pick to
Strowman,
win.
yeah, I think a lot of people thought it was either going to be McIntyre or Seth Rollins,
Yep.
and obviously we got the latter instead of the former. But I thought they protected Drew really well. They protected Braun Strowman really well because he's like it took all those guys to get rid of him
Mhm. Mhm.
towards the end. I think Mustafa Ali had a pretty
Yeah.
good show.
Yeah. He was bumping his ass off, was he not?
Yeah,
Yeah, he was getting his ass kicked, but he stayed in that shit. It
it
was
was it
good.
was it was a really good mix of guys, and it just shows you how much talent's on the roster, like on the main roster as well as NXT, and so I really enjoyed the Royal Rumble match. I didn't think that was going to be my favorite match going into the show, but coming out of it, that might be my highlight.
What did you think about Dolph Ziggler?
the same thing I always think about Dolph Ziggler. Like, he's really talented, but by this time, I think myself and a lot of fans have been kind of burned by this dude so many times
Hmm.
with the start and stop pushes that the company gives him.
Right.
And it becomes like the boy that cried wolf. Like, no, guys, this really is going to be the time they take me seriously and make me a top guy. You'll see. And 2 weeks later, he's losing to No Way Jose. So,
Well, now tell me about your thoughts about the woman in the men's match, Miss Nia Jax.
I thought it was perfect the way she was introduced, because one of the intriguing things I was thinking about, Jennifer, heading into the Royal Rumble was how we're going to utilize R-Truth and Carmella in their respective Battle Royals,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
they both got the 30th spot because of the Mixed Match Challenge.
Right.
And Carmella, they took her more seriously than Truth. So I was expecting there to be some foolishness involved in the men's match. And so to have Nia be the one to come and take him out, and then she gets in there, she's taking on these dudes. I was all for it. Like, I'm a Nia Jax stan anyway. Hashtag nihilist. But to see her in there with those dudes, like, it's something that I think you can only get away with certain performers, like
Mm-hmm.
a China, like a Beth Phoenix, like a Karma.
Mm-hmm.
And so Nia to me was a good fit for that spot.
I feel like you and I are going to be in the minority on that opinion because I liked it too. I really liked her wrecking dudes, and then I really wanted her to make out with Randy Orton there for a second because I adore Randy Orton. And then when he hit that RKO on her, I was like, oh shit, that was hot. It was.
That's not what I was thinking, but hey, to each their own. Oh man, I like that. I like it. So that brings us to our next category: most disappointing match.
All right. Um, so I alluded to it earlier, but I've seen Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles probably more times than I need to. Even though I enjoy their matches quite a bit, I just felt like I had seen this a lot. I
You're like,
love,
no more of this great thing.
yeah,
I
I mean,
I'm full of
I
this.
don't know. It,
No
I
more
love
ice cream.
AJ. I love AJ, and I love what Daniel's doing too. But I think you said it earlier. It just felt like something was missing, and it wasn't what we got at the end. And I mean, there were some great spots. So AJ in particular, and I love it when AJ bleeds. But I don't know. It was a little off for me.
Yeah, that match, it felt very much like, I don't know if you remember the series AJ had with Nakamura,
Yes.
where the matches were all good and technically sound, but they never really, to me at least, kind of reached that next gear.
Right.
That's what this match felt like tonight.
It just felt like they have a lot of chemistry, but it was like they had like they'd had a fight or something like an old married couple before the match, and so they're they weren't. I don't know. They didn't bring it all the way for me.
Yeah, I liked it. Like I said, I think it's impossible for those two to get in the ring and have a bad match,
Hmm.
but the expectations are so high
Right.
with those guys that, sometimes it's hard to live up to. So I can see where you're coming from with that. But my most disappointing match is your best match,
Oh Lord.
and that's Ronda and Sasha.
Tell me why.
And I think, again, I'm a confessed and admitted Nia Jax stan, but I think the matches Ronda had with Nia are better than the matches she's had with any other opponent. And it's
Mm,
it's not that Nia's a better in-ring performer than Sasha. I just think that the contrast in styles and the
hmm.
size difference works better with Rousey and Nia. Whereas tonight, I think they I think they wanted to have this really grand match, and there
Hmm.
were parts of it that I think tiptoed up to that line, but there were also parts of it that didn't quite click. It felt like if this is match one of a three-match series, so to speak, this is the one that's, where they kind of work the kinks out. And then the next match, they'll be off and running.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not my favorite Ronda match, but I think it's just my lower expectations um, made it seem a little heightened for
See, I
me.
had higher expectations. Maybe
Yeah.
that was my problem.
Yeah, because you're a Ronda fan like everybody else.
I, And here's the other thing, Ronda, and this might be a sneak preview of the chain pre-action coming up here in a little bit.
Mhm.
But I think Ronda needs to go ahead and make that heel turn, especially if we're leading to Becky and Ronda at Mania. There's no way that you're gonna get these people to boo Becky.
Well, how are you going to get them to boo Ronda?
I think it's easier for them to boo Ronda than to boo Becky, because I think even in this match tonight, obviously the cheers were there when Ronda won at the end, but during the match it was kind of split.
Mm.
And I think people are way more invested in Becky right now than they are in Sasha.
Well, that's true.
And you gotta remember though, at WrestleMania, it's like the hardest of the hardcores are there.
Yeah.
And those, especially like the European fans, like I think if there's any chance that Ronda would be booed, it would be by those fans going up against Becky.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. And maybe I would like Ronda better as a heel because she's too smiley for me. It's too sincere. It's overly like sugary, and I just don't like it. So
my thing with Ronda is, and I like where you're going. I like that you're leading us down this path, because my thing with Ronda is her promos.
Yes.
Like her appearance and her actions are the actions of a babyface. But if you just listen to her speak, she sounds like a total bad guy. Like they would play the package before the match with Sasha, and she's like, "You don't know what it's like to be a champion, and you don't know the sacrifices you have to." Lady, why are you yelling at me? I paid to see you. I'm already here. Why are you yelling at me?
Well, I find her promos to be awkward and not effective. So
yes,
yeah.
But I think if she turned the dial up a little bit more, and especially with Sasha doing the 4 horsewomen symbol at the end of the match,
yes,
alluding to things to come, I think Ronda and Shayna and Marina and Jessamine, that's a great little heel unit.
I could get on board with that. Like I said, that might be what turns me on Ronda, is if she turns heel. I mean, I'm excited for it. Let's do that. Let's book that now, Nasty Nate.
Let me get on the horn with old BKM.
Yes,
I'm sure he takes my text messages.
Well, we're in with Kevin Kelly now, right? So he can hook us up.
I mean, Kevin Kelly knows people.
He knows people who knows people.
He's like the old E.F. Hutton commercial. Like, when Kevin Kelly speaks, people listen. Like half of the audience has no idea what we're talking about.
Well, it took us this far to get off the rails. So
yes,
I'm proud of us.
Let's get back on the road. Road to WrestleMania, if you will. Nice. Next category, blue chip stock. Who is the performer that came out the best tonight, in your opinion, Jennifer?
I had a couple of options here, but when I think about it, I'm gonna go with Finn Balor, because I thought he looked really good against Brock, and I was a little bit disappointed that he didn't bring the demon tonight, but I can see how they might be building to that, because you don't want the demon to lose. And he put on a great show. I mean, there's nothing that he should be disappointed in. I thought it was excellent.
That's a good pick. Finn certainly did nothing to hurt his stock in that match against Lesnar. Mm-hmm. I just haven't been enthused with this Lesnar title run.
Yeah, I don't really like Brock that much either.
I think Brock, when used effectively and efficiently, Brock can be a great performer. Mm-hmm. I just think that this last run of his, other than the Goldberg feud, has felt really flat to me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Let's see. My blue chip performer. Finn's a good pick, but I think I am going to go with his fellow countrywoman, if you will, and give it to Becky Lynch.
Well, I mean, you can't go wrong with that pick.
And the reason I say this is because even though Becky was popular these last few weeks, Jennifer, I don't think I think her popularity kind of waned a bit.
Yeah, it did seem like she had a little bit of a downward turn there, but this is just going to escalate things tremendously.
I think after, I believe it was TLC. After TLC, they didn't really know what to do with her and Charlotte and Asuka and all that. And then I think tonight, not only did she have a really good match with Asuka that made both women look strong, but then you give her that win in the Rumble, and I think, man, like the sky's the limit as long as they don't screw it up, which is always a possibility. As long as they don't screw this up, you got a tailor-made match, whether you're doing a one-on-one with Becky and Ronda, or if you want to do that three-way with Charlotte in the mix.
That's what I'm hoping for because Charlotte is my girl. So I'm going to be at WrestleMania. So I really want to see that.
Yeah, Charlotte might have been my runner-up for the blue chip because I really
Yeah.
liked her performance in the Battle Royal.
Oh, yes. Well, yeah. I was marking out real hard for Charlotte.
All right, let's go to the other side of the coin, no pun intended. Who's the penny stock of the night, Jennifer? Who is the performer that, in your opinion, came out looking worse after the show?
All right. I had like a bunch of names and question marks here. Um I'm gonna say Dolph.
Oh,
It's like you said before, like they always do the tease thing, and he had a good spot in the Rumble, and it looked wasted, and I don't know, it just I just have no excitement for him anymore. I used to be pretty into him, so I don't know. What do you think?
this one is hard because I
It
think
is hard.
everybody worked really hard tonight.
Yeah.
Like, and there wasn't like a glaring bad match on the show.
Mm-mm.
So I think what I'm gonna do is I am going to give the penny stock of the night to Michael Cole.
Oh, geez.
And it's Cole's fine. Cole's a perfectly fine announcer. I think the days of people bashing Cole just because it was the end thing to do, that's behind us. But I got to get on Cole's case for one specific comment tonight,
Which one?
and that was after Apollo Crews got eliminated. Michael Cole's like, "Oh wow, Shelton Benjamin just got eliminated."
Oh my God.
Corey Graves had to correct him. That's Apollo Crews.
Oh, that's just awful.
So for not being able to tell Shelton Benjamin and Apollo Crews apart, Michael Cole gets my penny stock of the night.
You know what? Let me add to my answer because I want to add the crowd in with
Mm.
this. They were awful. I'm sorry. They were dead for a lot of good stuff. I don't know if it's because like it's a baseball stadium and maybe you can't hear correctly, but like they just they were sort of blah. Am I
That's a
wrong?
good question. Like I don't know, because I know that it's a dome stadium,
Hmm.
so I know if they have the dome open, sometimes the sound doesn't come across the same way on TV as it does when you're actually in the stadium.
Hmm.
But they did feel really dead. Like there were points where they were into it and they were enthused, but there were other parts, especially during that women's rumble, where it felt
Yeah.
like, and that's part of why that match kind of dragged for me because the crowd wasn't into pretty much anything they were doing.
And that's part of the reason why Brian and Styles didn't hit for me is because they were dead for that shit after the
Yeah,
Rumble.
yeah. So you, Phoenix crowd, you guys get a penny stock.
Yeah, y'all suck.
All right, our final category is the chain pre-action, which is where we kind of look at the event as a whole and we spin it forward. So overall, Jennifer, what do you think about this year's edition of the Royal Rumble, the 32nd annual Royal Rumble? Was it a good show, bad show, thumbs in the middle? Where would you rank this show?
I would lean towards good. I had some nitpicks, and one of those we didn't really talk about was like how it was set up. There was no stage. They would just come out of the I guess out the dugout or whatever. I
Oh,
didn't like that at all.
I kind of like that because they had to run and then they had to make that like cut.
Turn,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was like they were doing the Get Out meme. Just,
I don't know. I like at live events like that. I like spectacle, right? I want to see like huge screens and
yeah.
lights and stuff. So all the and you're just looking over there, 60 times or more when everybody would come out. So I just felt like it needed a little bit something more. But um, overall, I thought there were great matches. Like I said, I love the women's Royal Rumble, um, Sasha and Ronda unexpectedly, and just great performances all around. I don't know if you want to do grades or anything, but I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 10.
Okay, that's not bad at all. I enjoyed this show, but the pacing of the show was off at times.
Yeah, that's true.
I think that last year's Rumble, both the men's and the women's matches were paced out a little bit better, and they felt tighter. And
Mhm.
it felt like one spot would flow into the next spot. Whereas with this Rumble, particularly in that first 30 minutes of the women's match, it felt like people were waiting for something to happen.
They were waiting for somebody to run out of the little thing because it took half an hour for somebody to get to the ring.
That's what they
They
should
had
have
to go
done.
through the maze.
They should have got like the little baseball car where you bring the relief pitchers out.
Yes. Oh, let me give you another little thing that I did enjoy. So coming up from NXT, you have Lacey Evans, who
Yes.
I kind of fell for in NXT, and I was sort of sad to see her go. But then once I saw her in the Rumble, and I know she's not like a huge fan favorite at this point, but with her and Charlotte locked up, that was good stuff for me. I enjoyed
I
that.
think she's gonna have a good spot on the main roster. I
I
think
hope so.
like the in ring is gonna come along once she gets used to working with these other women,
Hmm.
but the character's there. Like
Oh yeah.
that's a character that I could definitely see not only the fans take it to, but the people in the office. So I think she's got a good future. Uh, that might have been my favorite thing about the women's rumble is that we got to see so many different women, whether you're talking
Yes.
about Lacey Evans or Nikki Cross, Kyrie Sane was in there.
Hmm.
I thought that even though it wasn't my favorite of the two rumbles, it was the match that I thought had more variety.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see where they go with this women's division, both on SmackDown and Raw now, because to go to the chain pre-action, I think the end game, the long plan as we travel this road to WrestleMania is you want to close the show with your biggest match, with your hottest feud, and I think that's going to be the women. And I think it's going to be Becky versus Ronda, perhaps with Charlotte, but we're definitely at least going to get Becky and Ronda.
Fingers crossed for Charlotte, but yes, I totally agree. They need to main event Mania.
And for me, I think I would give this show a thumbs up. You gave it a 7 out of 10. I'd probably go six,
Okay.
6.5. And again, there was nothing on the show that was bad.
Right.
It's just that I think some of the pace. It reminds me of one of those Netflix series, like from Marvel,
But
like
yeah, like Daredevil.
Daredevil or Jessica Jones or Luke
Yeah.
Cage,
Yeah.
where it's a good season, but you always have those 2 or 3 episodes in the middle that just kind of drag.
Right.
And it's like if we took out those episodes, how much tighter the show would be. So it's like, man, if we cut, say, 15, 20 minutes off of the women's rumble, maybe cut 10 minutes off of this match here, this match there, we
Hmm.
could have had a much tighter show that I think would have flowed better despite that dead Phoenix crowd.
Right. Maybe the crowd needs some Golden Crisp to wake their asses up and give them a sugar rush.
That was probably my favorite thing on the show because
It was, yeah.
we talked before in the chat about why aren't they doing a deal with the New Day, and then we had the New Day chanting for Super Golden Crisp, and that just made my night. Between that and Jeff Jarrett, like after that I was like, I'm good. Whatever you want to give me, Vince McMahon, I'm cool with. So Jennifer gives it a 7 out of 10. I give it a 6 out of 10. And in terms of what we got next, Jennifer, in terms of Fastlane, in terms of WrestleMania, in terms of Elimination Chamber, what's the thing that you're most interested in, maybe besides the women's match?
Let's see. This is the part of wrestling that I'm terrible at, is like the foreseeing, of things.
That's where all the fun is.
Well, I think it's
Everybody
because
gets to be a booker.
and I suck at that yet. So, um, you know, um, besides the women, because to me right now the women are just they're where it's at. But let's see some more Mustafa Ali, perhaps. Um, some more. Let's see what Rey Mysterio, what else he can do, because I mean, he's been on a tear with Andrade
Yeah.
recently, so maybe something there. And then we got to get Lana to figure out how to not interfere in matches and let Rusev maybe win something else.
Yeah, I mean it was a very sad Rusev day.
It was. I did not enjoy it at all.
All right, but for me, I think going forward, the thing that's going to intrigue me the most outside of the women's program is, are they really going to get behind Seth Rollins? And what I mean by that is, are they going to put the belt on Seth? Because I think you're kind of stuck right now with Brock. Brock's a big name. He's somebody that, adds more eyeballs, I guess, to the product, especially if you're looking ahead to that Fox deal when SmackDown debuts on Fox. Brock is somebody you probably want to have on that first show along with Ronda. But as a fan, I have not been that intrigued by Brock holding the Universal title.
No.
So I'd like to see Seth win it, and that way we can get into some more stuff with, maybe Seth and Finn or Seth and Braun, and get some fresh matchups.
Seth and Finn, yes. Yes, please.
And other than that, I want to see Big E. I want to see Big E start to get some shine as a solo act. He can still be cool with the New Day. I don't want to see a turn, but Big E is a guy that has all the tools, in my opinion, to be up in that top mix on SmackDown, with Joe and AJ and Daniel Bryan. So I hope that we start to see Big E get a little more shine, and he's not just, hawking cereal and pancakes.
But he's so good at it, though.
I think the New Day are prisoners of their own success.
They are, because I don't want them to go away from each other. I don't want them to be mad at each other. They need to be peace and joy. I love them so much, just like they are.
Yeah, I think that they're prisoners of their own success because people love them so much and they sell a lot of merchandise. So it's like, why would you break this up? But if you're just looking at the guys individually and saying, like, who's a guy that could really break out, it's Big E.
Oh, for sure. What about Daniel Bryan? What are you thinking for him at Mania?
That's a great question because obviously this thing with AJ isn't finished, and now we've introduced Eric Rowan, the people's champ, the man that the fans were clamoring for, Eric Rowan.
Yep.
We inserted him into the mix. So I don't know if that's it, though. I don't know if Daniel Bryan gets like his own bizarro version of the Wyatt family where we're like this vegan, all natural, environmentally sound heel stable, or if it's just going to be Bryan and Rowan. So I think that's going to go on for a bit. I don't see them taking the title off him anytime soon.
Nope.
Maybe this leads to another Bryan and Styles match at Mania. I don't know if they can stretch it out that far. But other than that, like, I guess you could elevate Mustafa Ali if you have him go over in his feud with Joe. Maybe a Rey Mysterio. But I think AJ is probably
You're not going to say Randy Orton, are you?
No, I'm not going to say Randy
Nobody's
Orton.
going to say Randy Orton. That's just in my fantasy book.
No Orton, no Jeff Hardy. Like, I think those guys have their place on the card.
Yeah, I agree.
But I don't think they should be in the main event anymore. The last time Randy Orton was in a big match at WrestleMania, he was fighting worms that were projected onto the mat. Nobody needs that in 2019.
I think that I've missed my window with Randy Orton. I think I got into this a little too late, and he's a little bit older, so I've just missed the prime of Randy Orton. But I don't know. I still love him for some reason.
Hey, we all have our favorites. That's why there's a bunch of different flavors of ice cream. It's because I have great taste and you don't. So
right, yeah. Well, that's obvious.
I
I had the worst takes of everybody.
I mean,
so I'm glad that I'm the only one here on your show.
I mean, that's to be fully honest, full disclosure, I told everybody else that you were going to be talking about Randy Orton, and they all suddenly had things to do tonight. So, that's on you.
Well, fuck them then.
And on that note, it is time to bring this inaugural edition of the Chain Reaction to a close. Great job, Jennifer.
Great job, Nasty Nate.
Thank you. And again, you'll hear more from Jennifer as this series progresses, because this show is like the Hotel California. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. That sounded really ominous.
You did. We're going to kidnap you.
Yes.
And hold you at a hotel.
Hold you for ransom.
Mm-hmm.
Please deliver $50 million in unmarked bills. and a pair of Shane McMahon Jordans. Before we get out of here, you got any plugs? Anything you want to promote, Jennifer, for the folks that might be hearing you for the first time on this show? Where else can they find you on these social media streets talking about wrestling?
Well, talking about wrestling, I'm on the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed with a show called Talkin' WCW with two of my very close personal friends, Tim Capel and Greg Phillips. Now, don't worry, they know a lot more than I do, so I'm just there for the color, and they're there for the actual knowledge and wrestling acumen. And then I'm on the Pop feed, Place to Be Nation Pop feed with several shows called Geek and Sassy, and then I have Freak Out Drive-In, and then I have Talkin' Pop. You can find me on Twitter at Jenny Cruz, Cruz 2814.
And if that isn't the geekiest Twitter handle I've ever heard.
Sorry.
Hey, say it with your chest. Be proud of your geekiness.
I claim it.
Claim it. And I am Nate Milton. You can find me online at on Twitter in the number 8 MOZAIK at Nate Mosaic on Twitter. You can check me out as well on Place to Be Nation with the Main Event, a bi-weekly show featuring myself, Scott Griscola, and the Conscience, Steve Willie. You can also check out The Kings of Sport, a show featuring myself and Marcus Vanderberg from Yahoo Sports. We're closing in on our 5-year anniversary, so if you want to check it out, this would be a good time to hop on board. We've also got a Patreon. If you want to show your appreciation in monetary forms, I will not stop you from doing so. And I also host a show on Post Wrestling Network called the Rocky Maivia Picture Show, which is exactly what it sounds like. I review Dwayne Johnson films and have ridiculous amounts of fun with that. So
okay, I have questions about that show.
Yes.
Is it live watch?
No.
Okay.
I could not handle a live watch of the Scorpion King of Doom.
Well, see, that's better though. Better that way.
I could not handle that. Look, by the end of the night, I'd just be hiding under the bed like Hornswoggle, hiding under the ring tonight. No, I'm not coming out. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe to the Kevin Kelly Podcast League on your podcast catcher of choice. In addition to shows like The Chain Reaction, you'll also get a brand new edition of the Kevin Kelly 5-Minute Podcast every single weekday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, because that's just how Kevin Kelly does it. Brother's hardest working man in the game right now.
Other than you, yes.
Yeah, other than me. So that is going to bring an end to this edition of The Chain Reaction. Jennifer, thank you for being my co-pilot on this maiden voyage.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast.
Yes, ma'am. We'll have to have you back next time. And speaking of next time, I'll be back next month with a review of WWE's Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. So, until then, y'all have been great. I've been Nate, and I'll see you next time on The Chain Reaction. All of the shows featured on the Kevin Kelly Podcast League, including the 5-Minute Kevin Kelly Podcast, are a part of the Place to Be Nation family and are not affiliated with New Japan Pro Wrestling.